Hi and welcome to the Soundschi Land show where everybody's upside down.
Every day is upside down day in Soundschi Land.
We just came back from an amazing 3 weeks in Kiev and I don't even know where to start. So this is going to be a recap of our experience in Kiev. I got a lot of questions from people on Instagram asking how we even got to Kiev. So the way it went for us was I connected with Louis on Instagram. I think he commented on one of my stories and then we just started texting and we found out that he was from Mexico and my mom is from Mexico and I'm a Mexican or half Mexican. And at some point he just said, why don't you come to Kiev? And at that point, I wasn't sure if we were gonna have time because we had just moved to Vienna. But I think the way it went was we wanted to invite Josh to come to Vienna. And he was refusing to travel at the beginning. But then I told him, hey, we could go to Kiev. We've been invited. And he was like, yes, let's do it. And that's pretty much how we ended up going. And after we told Morgan and Ulrich about it, they wanted to join also. So this group kind of developed and we made a group trip out of it. So when we first got there, we didn't know if we were even gonna be able to train. I remember on the first days when Josh and I and Ivo arrived, because we were the first ones to arrive, Josh was like, damn, I hope we're gonna get enough training, because we weren't sure if they were gonna let us into the circus school, because they're very strict and very private about their environment and their training. So Louis asked his coach if it was okay for us to just come and train with them. And she said at the beginning, yeah, they can come for 1 day, but then we'll see. And that's basically how it went at the beginning with everything. We were staying at the Circus Hotel, which is the hotel where all the performers stay that perform in the circus in Kiev, which was like 5 minutes away from us, from our hotel. We told them we were gonna stay until the 20th of June. And they said, no, that's too long. You can't stay for so long. You can stay for a week and then we'll see. So the atmosphere was generally very repellent. But as time passed, we went to the class at the circus school and we had a session with the teacher. And she decided that we were worthy, or I don't know how to say that we were okay to come and train more often. And so that's how it went. So you should know there are generally, I'm sure there's more than 2 gyms, but the 2 gyms we trained at were Seska, which is where the people from the circus school train. And then there's Nivki, which is an open gym, but it's a circus style gym. And everybody can go there. And that's where we went when we couldn't go to Seska, because we could only go to Seska if our teacher was there. If she wasn't there, we weren't allowed to go in. Out of respect for the circus school, because they are so private and so reserved, I'm not gonna talk too much about it, and I'm not gonna talk about the process of how to get in, because I think they decide on a case-to-case basis. And I want to be respectful of that. So this is all I can give you, the way we came in and like my personal experience. As far as the training goes, oh my God. So the first week I was dying. We only trained like 4 hours per day, which is the regular schedule of the circus school. But we trained with this teacher. And pretty much every set was spotted. And the drills that I was doing were much harder than what I was doing in my own practice. And so the general hold times, or the time I spent on my hands, and the difficulty of the skills were just like way above what I was doing before. So the first week, it was kind of like a shock for my body a little bit. And I was the only one who had to take a day off on Thursday. So our first training was on Monday. Thursday, I was done with the world. I woke up in the morning and I felt like I had rocks in my arms. And it felt pretty shitty for me because I was the one with the lowest level in handstands. I was the only one still practicing on 2 arms, not having a 1 arm, whereas everybody else was doing higher level skills. So at first I was skeptical because I didn't know if I was even going to be able to sustain this practice. And I was a little scared of getting injured. But the nice thing about training in Kiev is that nobody forces you. So the high volume and load that they train is basically because they want to, because you're in such an inspiring environment. It's not that the teachers make you do more than you can do. They always encourage you, but they're very easygoing with if you decide to not come or to take a break, or like nobody would say anything. That's why I was able to just take a day off. But after the first week, things started to go upward again. It was really good that I took that day off. And then afterwards, slowly, bit by bit, my body started adapting. And it was really surprising for me because I think to understand this, you have to know where I come from and what I've experienced in the past to fit in this experience and understand it. I originally came from figure skating, where the environment was very, very similar to the one we experienced in Kiev. I think the best way to describe it is that there is no limit to how much you can train and what you can do in the heads of the people. But after figure skating, I worked as a personal trainer, and that was kind of the opposite. It was health-oriented. My clients were all... they weren't all overweight, but they were more like training to get rid of their back pain or to lose weight. And it was not skill-oriented. It was just like, yeah. I think the people who are personal trainers themselves also know that a lot of people just come to have someone to talk to, or like because of the social aspect, and to make them move in the first place. So it's a very, very different type of people. But when we got back to Kiev, I was thrown back into this environment of everything's possible, train your ass off, and don't think about injuries or the health aspect or anything of that sort. At first, like I said, it was a bit of a shock, and it was kind of a new situation that I had to adapt to, because working in this environment of health-oriented training made me kind of soft. I don't know if that's the right way to say it, but you develop this kind of mentality where you're scared of injuries or scared of doing too much, and it really limits you. And when we came to Kiev, at first it was kind of like a hurdle that I had to overcome. But the amazing thing was that after, I'd say 1.5 weeks, my body started to open up to this other mindset, which is don't stop, keep going. If it hurts, be careful, but keep working and find a way to work around it. And it's just very different and very open. And so the whole experience for me personally was a struggle with my own limitations that were mostly in my mind, because I had situations where I was like fighting against myself, and I thought, this is not good, this is too much. But as soon as I noticed that I was thinking in these kinds of patterns, I tried to just like open up, give this method or this way of thinking and training a chance. And magic started to happen. I developed energies I didn't think I had before. I was the one with the lowest level, but I kind of found this source in myself that I could keep going and just find my own ways. And that was like, for example, managing my recovery. So I started using a cream that Mihaela gave me, which is a great cream. I think it's made in Thailand. I still haven't figured out how to get it, but yeah. So you develop these methods like sleep enough, voodoo flossing, massaging, and stuff like that. So to speed up your recovery and become better. And 3 weeks isn't really a long time. So when we first came to Kiev, my fingertip holds and straddle were fairly consistent on one side, but I couldn't do both sides in one set because my shoulders were very unstable. I would collapse. And now that feels way different. Another very interesting thing I've noticed is that, so when we came there, we had a session in the park before we even went to the circus school, just for fun, because we arrived on the weekend and that's when they rest. And Josh and I, we took like 5 minutes to warm up and we were in a handstand. And Kim and Lewis, they took way longer. And at first I didn't understand why they were so stiff. And after training in the circus school, I understand. My body is way stiffer and it takes me about an hour now to get really warm, depending on the time of the day. I get warm faster in the evening time, but that's something I notice. So I still get into my ranges, I still get into my splits and everything, but it just takes a long time to get there because I'm just stiff at the beginning. To give you an idea of how the training or what the training looked like. So for me, for my level, what I did was warm up with a long hold at the beginning. I went through all the shapes, straight, straddle, tuck, and so on, and different transitions, head in handstands, and then we would move on to soldier. Soldier is basically a narrow straddle, and this is a very common warm-up exercise where you just go on your fingertips in this, or if you're at the level, you can transfer to your one arms. With me, I think we did it between 5 and 10 sets at the beginning of every training. And the teacher spotted me through one arm fingertips, opening and closing to straddle and straight. We did a lot of flagging. We did a lot of block walks, always in soldier. I rarely did anything in a big straddle because it would change the position of my hips and I would pike more. And so what I learned there is to keep my hips straight and just open my legs as wide as I can without having to tilt. As you could see on my Instagram, we did a lot of back bending too. And we always finished with conditioning, which was either handstand push-ups or starter pressing, which she spotted me through, which was really hard, or some other conditioning exercises like for the wrists or like strength exercises. The main takeaways for myself: my body can adapt to way more than I thought was possible. I got very clear about the limitations in my head, which are probably infused by working in the health industry that has a very different goal than circus. I've learned that my body is capable of way more than I thought, and its ability to recover and adapt is way better than I thought. In terms of my training, it's really hard to say what my biggest takeaway really is because there was just so much, and most of it was physical. So it's not necessarily something I can describe in words, but it's rather the sensations that I have when I do the exercises. So when I do any kind of exercise or when I'm on hands, I have very different feeling. Maybe actually this is one thing that I could tell. They put a big focus on having your weight more in the front rather than on the heel. The way this makes sense to me is that when you have the weight more in the front, you have more room for errors. So if you fuck up, you have more room to save yourself. Whereas when you're on the heel and you just have a little bit of wobble towards underbalance, it's very hard to save yourself. And so it's true that when you do the test where you stand on your feet and you want to stand for a long time, it's more efficient if you stand on your heels. But move on to one leg and move your upper body around and your leg around, and you will notice that it will be way easier to put more weight in the front of your foot, because otherwise you'll fall more easily. So this is something I've been applying lately, and it is pretty hard on the wrists. I can notice that my wrists are more challenged, but it helps a lot with keeping the balance, keeping the position, and just aligning yourself. And my third and biggest takeaway is environment matters. It's crazy how your training can change just because there are a bunch of people training at an insanely high level and you can watch them. Or just being around people who are aspiring to be the best they can. It just changes so much, the whole atmosphere and just the way you feel and the way you focus and the effort you put in. It just blows my mind every time, but I've never experienced anything like Kiev. This was just really mind-blowing. And I'm gonna do my best to keep this in me, like to keep this sensation in me and to let it fuel my training. But I'm also gonna go there as often as I can, and I can't wait to go back because I already miss it, even though we just came back like 2 or 3 days ago. But yeah, Josh, Morgan, and I, we've been trying to keeping up the pace, and we've been training here at my place. It's a lot of things, and it's hard to put into words, but if you have any questions, please let me know. I'll be happy to talk about it. Otherwise, it's just, it was a very unique and special experience. And I'm so happy and so grateful that we got the chance to go there. I also want to thank all of the people who made our time so amazing there. It was incredible. And of course, I have a bunch of interviews lined up for the next upcoming weeks. But next week, Handstand Diary is gonna be 1 year. It's my first anniversary. So we're gonna celebrate it a little bit. And yeah, so I'll see you next Monday. Remember that the world is your playground, so just go ahead and do whatever you love. And I'll see you next Monday on the Soundschi Show.
Feel like a dynamite, ready to explode right up in the sky. I need you to listen, I need you to hear, and don't show any fear. I've been flying from town to town, from London to Taiwan. I've been all around the globe trying to protect your soul. We are heroes tonight. We will fly above the sky. We are heroes tonight. Yeah, we are heroes tonight. We will fly above the sky. We are heroes tonight. Town to town, from London to Taiwan. I've been all around the globe trying to protect your soul.